Hi everyone. In this video of Accelerated Chess Dragon, we're going to be looking at another chess opening, and this is the Philidor defense. So without further ado, let's look at the Philidor defense. The Philidor defense starts when white plays e4 and black plays e5. White will go knight f3, and now black will play d6. And this is the main difference in a lot of different variations that we see nowadays. Usually you'll see black play something like knight c6, maybe knight f6, the Petrov, but very rarely you will see this move d6 in top GM levels. White plays d4, and now black will play e takes d4. That is one move that black can play. A few other ones to consider are knight d7, knight f6, and also f5. And we're first going to be looking at the move f5. And this is the move that Paul Morphy actually liked to play. White will play knight to c3, and now black will play f takes e4. And after knight takes e4, black will play d5. You should also note that after f5 is played, it's not a very good idea to actually capture the pawn on f5, because first of all, you allow moves like e4 and bishop takes f5 to be played, and you just give black a ton of development, and it's best that you don't do that. So e takes f5 is one move that shouldn't be played, but you could just play knight c3, reinforcing the e4 pawn. White will have to trade a few pawns, and after d5, knight g3, and e4, white just centralizes his knight. Black will play knight f6, and now to get rid of the very annoying pawn on e4, white will play f3. And the pawn cannot stay on e4, obviously you must trade it for something like this pawn on f3, but after the simple knight or queen takes f3, white has just gotten a ton of activity, and white is going to stand better in this position. So f5 is one move that back then was okay to play, but now it's not very advised to play as black. But there are other moves that you could play. Another move is knight f6, which is a bit more of a counter-attacking move. White will capture the pawn on e5 in exchange for giving up the pawn on e4. And now knight bd2, offering a trade of knights. Knight takes d2, bishop takes d2, bishop to e7. Not capturing the pawn on e5, because that could give white a good amount of development for his knight on e5, and black wouldn't want that. So black plays bishop e7, white plays bishop f4, and after d5, black always has options of playing the move c5, knight c6, and black might get a lot of space on the queen side, but white should probably have no trouble going on the king side and attacking. And the last move that is a sideline other than the move e takes d4 is to play knight d7. And after knight d7 is played, there's this long variation of what you should do. Bishop c4, black plays c6, white castles, bishop e7, and after a few more moves, this is all just normal development. And here, black is actually forced to go into an endgame. After this knight g5 move is played, there's obviously a threat on the f7 pawn. And if you play this move knight h6 to try reinforcing the pawn on f7, then this actually allows a ton of bad moves to be played. And I encourage you to pause the video and find out what white can play after this knight h6 move is played. Okay, so white can actually just play the move knight e6. And believe it or not, this is already way better for white. Of course, there's an attack on the d8 queen, and if you move the queen somewhere like b6, then white can just capture on g7 with check. The king must move to either d8 or f8, but now white just captures the knight on h6, and white's just winning. So that is why instead of playing this move queen b6, you must play f takes e6. And after f takes e6 is played, black will just lose his knight on h6. And here, unfortunately, you cannot play the move g takes h6, because if you do, then after queen h5 check, black is already lost. King to f8 can be played, but now there's just bishop takes e6, and unfortunately for black, there is no way to survive anymore. If you play queen e8 to try guarding the f7 square, then there's queen takes h6 checkmate. And if you try playing the move king g7 or any move that doesn't guard the f7 square, then you're basically lost there. So this position is essentially hard to play if you are playing the black pieces. So that is why you should not play the move knight h6 and instead just capture the knight on g5. Avoid all complications possible. Queen h5, now there's obviously a threat of mate if you ever dare to capture this bishop on c1. So queen e7 defending, and here there's a very interesting move that I don't understand why white plays. White is actually said to play the move queen takes g5, but I don't see what's wrong with actually just developing this bishop on g5. Even though there is a way for black to develop the knight to f6, white can play queen f3, and even though white is not generally used to putting the queen on the f3 square, this is still okay because you are putting pressure on the knight on f6, and with future development, white should definitely be okay. However, the theory usually states that white should just play the move queen takes g5 and trade the queens off the board. Now, I am not biased to what move you choose, but you can choose between queen or bishop takes g5. It doesn't really matter. Queen takes g5, bishop takes g5, knight gf6, f3, defending the e4 pawn, and here are a few more moves. b5, bishop to e2, and now knight b6, trying to centralize the knight on the c4 square, knight d2, bishop to e6, and rook fc1, getting ready to push the pawn to the c4 square. Knight fd7 and c4, and this is just quite a lot of development from white's end. Let's now look at the main move, which is e takes d4. If e takes d4 is played, then white will just capture the pawn on d4, black will play knight f6, attacking the pawn on e4, knight c3 by white, bishop to e7, bishop to f4, and now black castles, queen d2 by white, and here black has a variety of moves he can play. One move is c6, another move is knight to c6, and the last move is d5. We're first going to be looking at the move d5. And if d5 is played, then after knight db5. And now black plays an interesting move, which is bishop b4. And you may be wondering why not just take the pawn on c7. And actually, if you take this pawn on c7, then black, believe it or not, gets a better position. Black can play the move bishop to a5, attacking the knight on c7, and also threatening the move knight takes e4. So white will capture the rook on a8, black will play knight takes e4, and here the position just gets too complicated. If you move this queen to d3, then black will play the move queen to f6. And not only is there an attack on the bishop on f4, but there's also threats on this knight on c3, and that could also lead towards this rook on a1. So you cannot really move the bishop away, and if you try defending the bishop with queen f3, then after knight c3, black has just gotten too much initiative, and the knight is coming alive, this bishop is going to come alive, and it doesn't seem like white has any way to stop it. For instance, if you play the move bishop takes b8 to just be greedy and capture material, then black will just check on e4. And even if you play this move c3, then after bishop to f5, bishop takes a7, black can play rook takes a8, and now black is only down the exchange, but after bishop e3, black would be way better after a move like bishop takes c3 check, and this is just too much. There are too many tactics, and that is why after this move, knight takes c7, even though it seems like black is lost, in reality it's the very opposite. So knight takes c7 doesn't work, so after castles is played, the position is just a decent one for black. Now you could also try the move knight c6 as black, but after queenside castle, knight d4, queen d4, and bishop e6, there's not really much that has been achieved by black. This is an okay position, but black doesn't really have a very good advantage over white. And the final move is to play c6, and this is getting ready to get an attack started with b5 and b4. So what white will play after c6 is after queenside castle, b5, f3, defending the e4 pawn, b4 attacking the knight, knight ce2, and now c5. And here white will actually play the move knight b3, and after knight c6, bishop takes d6 by white. And after bishop takes d6, you win a pawn as white. But black isn't going to just let you capture the pawn and get away. He's going to play c4, bishop takes e7, queen takes e7, and now knight b to d4. And here black is just going all out. He doesn't care how much pawns that he's going to have to sacrifice. He's going for it. c3, bc3, bc3, queen c3, knight b4, the white king, and this would just be too much. After this knight to b4 move is played, white will play king to d2, trying to run away from all of this. And now black will play rook to d8, aligning the rook with the king. King to e1 by white, knight takes a2, queen a5, and now bishop to e6 by black. And now white is going to play king f2, and even though it looks like the strangest position, white was originally castling queenside, but now he's on the king side, black has no compensation for his lost pawn. So in actuality, black is actually way worse. So that is the end of the variation, and that is essentially the end of the Philidor defense. So I hope you all enjoyed the video, and if you have any suggestions or feedback for me, please let me know in the comment section, and stay tuned for more chess.